And we're back, and it's COMP397, and it's week 12, lesson 12, part 3. And we're just going to finish off the bullet thing right now. But so let's say this is good if we're going to create a bullet off the top, and it was just like one bullet, and you never have to keep track of it. And if the bullet didn't have an update function, you wouldn't care. But the bullet does have an update function, so we need to put that in our update for the avatar, right? This is where it should go. So how does that work? Well, we need to create something that can be available to the avatar, which means I need to create some kind of public property up here. One of the ways to do this, and this is kind of a cheesy way, is to create a bullet, right? So I'm going to say it's going to be a public property. I want to keep track of my bullets for some reason. And I'm going to say, or actually I could make it private, doesn't matter. But for now, let's call it private or public. And I'll say my bullet is of type objects.bullet. That's what it is, right? And now when I do this, when I go back down here to create my bullet, instead of going var bullet, I'm just going to say this dot bullet, right, is equal to new object, right? This is good. That means it'll keep track of my bullet. This is the one bullet that I have. I have one bullet, right? Okay, good. And then in my update, right, because I have a bullet, I'm going to instantiate the bullet dot update. But here's the problem. What if I only create my bullet here for the very first time, right here, right here? I add it to my stage here, right? If I never fire my bullet and I try to update it, can I do it? I'm gonna have a problem. Let's see how this works. So if I go my control action, my calc vector, and all this kind of stuff, and you know what? After my control action, before my move, I want to do this dot bullet dot update, right? Because it belongs, right? I have a bullet, I have some bullets, and I have an update for my bullet. Let's see what the problem is going to be. Do you see what I'm saying? Well, that's true too, but let's see if that happens. So I go here, and when I go here, I have a problem right away. Here, let's see what my problem is. And the reason why I knew it was going to happen, because I know the way it works, is uncaught cannot read the property update of undefined. Where's my avatar? And then there's 111 and 112. That's where it's going to be. 111 and 112, if you look at it, is right here. It doesn't understand this update property because I never made a bullet. Right? I've never created a bullet anywhere, so it has never been created. Therefore, I can't use it. And this is where we come down to creating a bunch of bullets, and we do it on initialization. So we say, here's my initialization. I want to create a bunch of bullets. So when I init here, I create my bullet for the very first time, right? But I don't update it or I don't show it until I fire it. Okay, so let's try that stupid way. That's a stupid way too, but let's just try that out. So my dx and my dy, and you know what? We're just going to create the bullet for the first time. Let's say this dot bullet, right, is equal to a new create.js dot bullet. Oh, sorry, objects.bullet. There's no bullet. Objects.bullet. And we're going to pass in the bullet, picture that we have, the image. Okay, cool. But we're not going to add it into the screen at all. We're going to only add child this bullet for the first time here. Right? Does that make sense? There's a problem with this too, because I want to fire the bullet every time. I want to make a new bullet, right? I'm going to make a new bullet afterwards. I'm going to add the bullet to the stage the second time. This is okay. I can do this. All I'm doing is overwrite the bullet every time. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to refresh. And in order for us to do that, we're also going to refresh this thing too, and we're going to play. Oh, what happened? No, hold on. What's going on? How come I don't have my bullet? What's my error now? Uncaught type error. Cannot read property of direction of undefined. Right? I've got no direction, right? Because what's happening is my bullet doesn't know anything about my avatar because my avatar hasn't yet been created. So how can my bullet know where the hell I am? My bullet will never know, right? Because my avatar, up until this point, I'm building my bullet class out of my avatar class, and that doesn't make any sense. So what's the solution, ladies and gentlemen? A bullet manager, right? A completely different class that runs outside of the avatar class. The bullets are created and held in a pool, and then I fire the bullets right, when I press the button. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. Now, in order for us to scaffold this, just from a time perspective, I've already have this already scaffolded. If I go to github.com for you guys to find it, if you wanted to try this on your own, and if I go to me, and if you look at repositories, there's a couple of things I've done. If I go to mail pilots, right, there's two. There's final. If I go to mail pilot final, I actually have a bullet class in there. I also have it in the Starbase 12 files here as well. But let's go to scripts, and if you look at objects, let's look at our bullet, how I did it before, because remember my bullets keep changing. Eh? My code keeps changing. So this is my bullet class. That's all it had, right? So every time I called my bullet class, I would add my child, this child, to the class for the first time. So when I call my bullet class, it automatically adds itself to the screen. That's the one thing that I need to change. It is a game object, right? And if you notice, I'm passing in, instead of listening for the constructor to give me an object, I'm just going to pass in the big bullet or bullet class right away. So I don't have to do that every single time, which makes sense, right? My bullet is a bullet. I never have to do this, which means if I go back to my bullet class, then instead of using an image string here, right, then all I have to do is send into my image string here the bullet, because I know that that's what it's going to be. Okay, never going to change. That's the first thing. This is all fine and dandy, this initial speed and direction and blah 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 blah, right? This is cool. I can do that for sure and calculate my speed and position and all that stuff. But one thing I definitely need to do after I do this and it, I have to do this dot, or game, right, dot add child this. That's what I want to be able to do, because I want to add this onto the stage. As soon as my bullet's instantiated, it pops into the stage. But it needs to know about avatar direction and avatar speed, which means I've got to have already created these bullets somewhere, right? That's cool. That's cool. But maybe what I need to do is call this initialization method as a public method that only happens when the bullet's instantiated. So when I instantiate the bullet, then I call my initialization method, or a fire method, bullet fire. And my bullet fire does all this stuff. Only after I call it, after my avatar has been instantiated, do I call this bullet fire method. I got to think about this as a second. Let's go back to my GitHub for a second and look at my bullet manager class. So I've got a bunch of different managers, and if I go to managers, I have a bullet manager. Here it is. Let's take a look at this, see what this does. A bit of some code here. One, it keeps a game container. I don't need to do that. It also knows about plane. I don't need to do that. It knows about bullets. Here's some bullets it does, and a bullet counter. How many bullets are firing at the same time? And if I'm firing, if my firing is true or false, well, I'm taking care of that with my control key, so I don't need to keep track of that anymore. And I don't care about this, right? What I do care is about this, the fire button. And this is what I want to do. I want to add child, and this is my left bullet or right bullet. My left bullet and right bullet is just I have two bullets when I'm on my mail pilot game, right? So, and if you notice, when I fire, I instantiate the bullets. My objects.bullet is equal to a new bullet object, right? That's what it's doing, left bullet and right bullet. This is cool. I don't need to do that though. I just want to add bullet to the game, and I want to create all that information, where the bullet is and all that kind of stuff. And I want to push my bullet onto my array, which is the bullet array, right? And then I have an update, and on my manager class, my update, it keeps track of the length of my bullets and how many bullets there are, and it keeps track of where the position of all the bullets. That's what it's going to do. And when it's not firing is not true, then what I want to do is I want to remove it from the stage. Okay, so kind of interesting. I can probably take this whole class here and we're going to modify it as opposed to starting from scratch, because we just don't have time for that right now. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, and I'm going to go back over here to so this bullet class I'm going to modify in a second. All right, we're going to see this. And I'm going to go back and stop debugging, and I'm going to go back to managers. If you notice, my avatar has a problem, right? I'm trying to do this, and there is no one of these. There is no this, so I don't need to do that anymore, and I don't need to do this anymore, but we're going to kind of get rid of that anyway. All right, so we have new objects bullet, but let's go back into my managers. We're going to add a new manager, so we're going to add a new TypeScript file called bullet manager, right? And our bullet manager, if you notice bullet, we also have a bullet here. There's two bullet files, but they're in different directories, right? Bear with me when I'm talking about this, right? So I add this in, and again, it's the same thing. I'm going to copy and paste, right? And this time, if you notice, it's my bullet manager class that I'm adding in. I don't care about these things. So game containers, I don't care about that. I'm going to use my global game container for this one. And I'm also not going to do this piece, right? This dot, I'm not going to define new bullets, left and right bullets. I'm only going to have one. And I'm just going to go, instead of this dot game.addChild, I'm just going to go game.addChild because I know I have a game. And I'm going to add in my bullet, which is this, right? So again, left bullet and right bullet. Let's go back and I'll show you what that is before I do that. Left bullet and right bullet. I'm defining a new bullet object, right? That's what this is doing, right? So let's do that. Let's say my new var bullet. Let's do the same thing. Is equal to new objects bullet. Types objects.bullet. Hold on, and you'll see the new thing, and then I'll update this on GitHub in a second. We don't need to do this because that doesn't make any sense in our game, right? So a new bullet object, and then we're going to add this to the game. So that's the same. So this is going to add it in, and we're going to add this bullet object to the game. This is the first thing we're going to do. So we're going to get rid of this. Okay, so this is what our bullet manager does so far. Our bullets is just an array of bullets. We don't have that yet. And a bullet count, we're going to keep track of how many we have. Firing, we know when we're firing. We're firing as long as the button's being pressed. When the button stops being pressed, we can stop doing this. We don't need to keep track of that either. All right, we don't need this either. We don't need to listen for plane or objects or game or nothing like that. We don't need that right now. Okay, left bullet, which is not that, it's the bullet. This is just this one here. Control C, Control V, Control V, oops. All right, it's not equal to this. My bullet X, this is where we do that bullet thing again, is just equal to my avatar. So it's equal to my avatar, that's what I'm saying, avatar.x. And this is where I do that thing. So my this is my avatar, avatar.y, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push onto bullets my bullet. Now, why am I pushing onto bullets? Bullets is the array. I'm pushing my bullet, which is this new object I'm creating. I'm pushing that onto the array. And I'm pushing it onto the array for a couple of reasons. I want to keep track of how many bullets I got on the screen, number one. And I want to use my array so I can dispose of the bullets later on. I can pop that array or splice that object out of the array, and it's gone. It'll be removed from the game. So I don't need this. Okay. I can play my bullet sound, but I don't have that right now. So we're not going to play that bullet sound right now. We haven't got a bullet sound yet, right? This is the fire algorithm. This is where I'm going to fire my bullets, right? So now when I instantiate my bullet manager, instead of me having my own bullet class or my own bullet being created inside of my object, I don't have to do that. Okay, so that's one thing. Now here's on my update. I'm going to keep track of my bullets, right? This is cool. And then I'm going to say a new bullet object. Right, here's my local bullet object, not this bullet, which is this one here, right? But one local to this update method here. And it's going to be disposed of when I'm done, right? So I create a new bullet object, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to count. This, by the way, you should never do this inside of a loop. What I should do is take this count length minus 1 and put it out, because otherwise I'm calculating length minus 1 in a loop, and it actually slows me down when I'm firing. But anyways, let's just leave it as is. My bullet now, this new bullet I've detected, is equal to this dot bullets count. So the first bullet, well, the 0th bullet, right? And I'm going to say this, bullet.y minus equals to 25. Well, that means it's going to move up in the direction. But this isn't what I want it to do. I don't want this to happen. I want to fire off my update, my bullet.update, right? Because remember, my bullet.update is going to fire in any direction that I choose, right? Which goes back to over here, what I had done with the bullets. And do I need to kick off my init? Well, no, I don't need to do this anymore. A direction, yes, I need this direction, right? My avatar.direction. So which means, going back to my bullet manager for a second, here's my bullet manager, right? When I set up this stuff over here, what I'm actually doing is, before I do X and Y, I want to kick off my bullet.init function. So let's go back over here, right? And right now my bullet.init function is a private method. we're going to make it a public method. That's why I kind of told you I might make this a public method later. Public. So what it's going to do is initializing my bullet, where my position of the bullet is, and all that kind of stuff, at the speed and the direction, right? So this is my public init, right? And if you notice, on update, I'm going to update my bullet's position, right, on update. Okay, go back to my bullet manager. So now I don't have to do this, I can just do this. I can say bullet.init. So I'm calling my init function. And then, with everything initialized, my speed, my direction, and everything else, it gets pushed into my bullets array. On update then, not only do I pull the bullet from my bullet array, my bullet count, each bullet, but then what I want to do, instead of doing y minus 25, and I want to check to see if my bullet y is less than 0, if it leaves the screen, right, less than 0 off the top of the screen, I check to see if the bullet's left the stage on the top of the stage, but I got to do a check to see if it's left on the bottom or the right. If it's outside of the stage boundaries altogether, I got to check that. So this isn't enough of a check right now. It's only going to check if it leaves. It's going to only destroy it if it goes up. All right, so let's try this. So now my bullet y isn't this. What I want to do is, and on update, I want to go bullet.update. That's what I want. I want to update my bullet. Okay. So that's what this is going to do. Okay. So when I call this thing, now this is firing, if config.firing, well, not this config fire, this config.firing, it's not equal to true. I just have to put config.firing. If my config.firing and this bullet count is I'm using the %, which is a mod. I'm checking to see if the remainder of 10 divided by my bullets is 0. It means I can only fire every 10 bullets. I'm only creating a bullet every 10 bullets. Then I'm gonna call the fire function. I don't care if the plane's on stage because my plane's always going to be on stage in this particular count. Okay, so that's when I do this on update. I check on update if I'm pressing the fire button. My bullet manager is going to keep track if the fire button is being pressed, and it's going to press the bullet. It has nothing to do with the plane or the thing. And then I'm going to increase my bullet count. On destroy bullet, what it's going to do when I call my destroy bullet function is it's going to go through and splice the bullet out of my array, kill it, basically remove that bullet from the game. Okay, so I'm going to say now this.game. Okay, so there's my bullet manager class. So I don't need to instantiate my bullet now inside my avatar. My avatar then doesn't have to have a bullet, right? Because that doesn't make any sense, right? That's one thing I don't need to have in my avatar. And I don't need to do this, right? Because my avatar has nothing to do with my bullet. My bullet is a separate object altogether on its own, which is a good thing. It means it doesn't have to keep track of all this. But what this does, now here's my avatar. When my config firing is true, I'm checking to see if my firing is true, then I do something. I don't need to do that here. I'm going to do that in my bullet manager. It's going to keep track if I'm firing or not. So this is gone. Okay, and here's my bullet update. I don't have to do this either. Okay, cool. Well, what this means is, what this means, right? And I'm going to go back to my bullet here. This .init doesn't exist. Hold on. And what I want is my bullet manager to be kicked off. That's what I want. Okay, a couple things I need to do. Let's go back into my index.html now. And I need to add a bullet manager class along with my assets. Right? I'm going to instantiate that thing. You know, again, I don't care about collisions right now. My collision manager has to be definitely down here, and my bullet manager can only be underneath my bullet. So I'm going to probably put it just before my collision manager, which is down here, just so that it knows about all this other stuff. My bullet, it knows about my avatar, it knows all that stuff. So this is a new bullet manager that I've created. Here it is right here. I'm going to pull it back into here. Right? So managers, bullet. Now it has the same name as this one, but that's okay because it's in a separate folder. So it knows that it's a different file, right? And it's also, you know, a manager. If I look at this bullet here, right, my module is managers, right? If I look at this bullet here, my module is objects. There's two different modules here. So that's okay. It can deal with that. And let's go back up to the game, and I got to add that into the game as well, and I'm going to add that in before my collision manager. Now the reason why my collision manager needs to know about my bullet is if it collides with something, I want it to be removed, right? So let's check that out. We don't have that any time yet, but I want to put that in. So here's my bullet manager, pulling it in. And now what I want to do also is in level 2, right? When I kick off my my avatar is kicked off, right? I also want to instantiate my bullet manager, right? So my avatar is working, and then before I add child to the stage, I want to do something like this. I want to create a bullet manager that's up here, right, to keep track of my stage. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. One, I could do it on the game level, right? So I could say something like assets, here's my game managers, and I could create something like this, var, as an example, bullet manager. And the reason why I'm doing this is because there's multiple bullets on the screen, which is of type managers.bullet, right? That's what it is. There's my bullet manager. Oops, I don't want to do this. I just want to name it. And then, now that it's a global object, as an example, I can access it other places. I can go back into my level 2, right? And now that it's there, I can instantiate the new bullet manager. So I can say bullet manager then is equal to a new managers.bullet manager. And once I've done that, right, I don't need to add any bullets to the screen because bullet manager only instantiates that object. But stuff that adds bullets to the screen, right, is the bullet itself. When I press the button, then the bullet is generated. I don't have to add anything else in here. I just have to add the bullet manager in here to keep track of all my bullets. That's all it's doing. So here it is, instantiate my bullet manager. There it is. So that's what that does. Okay, good. Now on bullet manager, that means I have to update my bullet manager, which is in here. So avatar update, and after that, my bullet manager update. Right? So if I don't do the update on my bullet manager, it'll never run that update function, and it'll never move the bullets around. And it won't delete the bullets either. Whew, lots of changes, right? But the idea here is that you have a separate bullet manager that keeps track of the firing option, when it fires or not. Let's run this thing and see what happens, and see what kind of error I'm going to get. Okay, cool. Let's play the game. And here's my ship, and I fire the bullet, and it fires in the direction I want. As long as I press my bullets down, take a look, right? It's firing them in any direction I want to fire them in now. Right? And it fires them forever and ever, and it keeps track of how many bullets are fired. But this is a problem here. It doesn't destroy them unless they leave this top of the screen. So I've got to do one more change to finish this off, right? And by the way, I'll fire from any position on the screen. I can fire my bullets now, right? And if you notice, another thing is they fire from the top of my ship. That's where they appear. So that's a bit of an issue. If you wanted to fire from the sides of your ship over here, like 2 bullets, you could do left and right bullets again. If you wanted to fire from the front of your ship, what would you do? Well, whatever the position is, you want it to be in front of your ship, so you can actually subtract something from your ship, have a little bit of an offset to move the bullet so it spawns in front of your ship. You could do that. That's probably the safest bet. For now, let's leave it as is, but that's one thing you need to do. One thing I need to fix, though, is this whole idea of getting rid of my stuff. This public.destroy method for my bullets, I need to do something like that in my bullet manager. So if I go back to my bullet manager itself, which is here, if you notice, I do a check. Here's my to check to see if the bullet has left the stage. Well, this is good, but what would be really nicer is if I had a private check function. Here's my, and again, this is a public fire function, right? So bullet.fire. Right? Now, what's kicking this off? Is this function here private or public? Fire. And are these bullets public or private? Well, these are all private. So this is private. My bullet counter is private, right? So this is something we can modify here. And if that means that I want to rename these ones from my new convention, so I named them that so that they're underscore bullets. Right, that's one thing I have to do, and the same thing for my bullet count. I don't care to show that with anybody else. So I want to kind of do an underscore bullet count here as well, right? Which changes all this stuff in here, right? So my bullet fire and all this kind of stuff. The only thing that checks in my update, I check to see if my configuration, when I press my spacebar, that it's firing, and then I also check to see that my bullet count, I have enough. My bullet count isn't greater than a certain number, otherwise it would fire too many bullets at once. All right, this dot fire. And that's when it's called. This.fire is actually a private function that's get called from within the bullet manager. If which means I can make this function private as well, or method. Right, which means I should rename this thing for our new convention, refactor, rename, and then call this bullet fire, right? Because we want to, the underscore means it's private. Let's make some other remarks here. These are private method, my private properties, right? And this is my bullet manager class. Private bullet manager class, right? And again, I'm doing this so you can see the separation of how this is all done, separation of concerns, so to speak, right? And that should be probably spelled private, not privkit, right? And then here's my constructor. So just to show you where that is, you notice my constructor is pretty bland. How about constructor Tom? Constructor Tom. No. There we go. Constructor. You guys didn't get the joke. You guys are sleeping. Come on. Trying to make you guys have a little bit of fun. Okay, so here's my constructor. And then here's my bullet fire. This is a private property. This is private methods. Private methods, right? Now, update has to be public because I can't make that, method private. So these are public methods. There we go. And you know what? Destroy bullet should be private because I don't care about destroying my bullet. Anyone else to see my bullet. So I'm going to kind of take this one up and just put it inside this area here under my private methods. So say private. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to refactor, rename, just keep the same name so I know when I look at this code that it's private. It's a private method. Right, so here's my private method. Here's some private methods. This is my fire method. So bullet fire. Fire. Come on, Tom. Fire method. And this is my bullet destroy method. That's what this is. Bullet destroy method. Because that gets rid of the bullets, right? And this is my public, my update method, right? That's what this is. So update method, right? Okay, so my update method, this is good, but I need the private method is what I'm saying to do this, right? To check my bounds. So that's what I got to do, check bullet bounds, or a check bounds. So I'm going to do a private method, right? We're going to call this check bounds, right? That's what this is. And what this is going to do, by the way, I don't know why I'm passing in bullet objects.bullet, but anyways, whatever. What I want to do here is, in my check bounds, I want to do this. If this is bullet is less than y, then destroy the bullet. That's what I want to do. So I want to check this. That's one of the checks I want to make. So I want to do that in here, which means I want to call that. Method down in here. Let me just undo that so you see what I'm talking about. It came from here, right? So inside this area here, I want to do the this.checkBounds method, right? I want to check all the bounds to make sure that I can destroy the bullet if I need to. That's what this is going to do, right? So right now, this is checking if my bullet, right, is going to be checked. But in order for me to do that, I got to pass my bullet in here as a bullet of type objects dot bullet because, oops. Bullet, not object. Yeah, objects.bullet. Because otherwise I don't know which bullet I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bullet that I'm passing into, that I'm getting from here, this private class which is generated over here. I want to pass this bullet, the bullet that I'm getting from my my array, my bullets array. I want to pass the bullet that I'm in the loop that I'm looking at each of my bullets that are in my bullet array, and I'm going to update each one of them separately. So this is the one that I'm putting in here. So I'm checking the bounds of this bullet. There might be 5 bullets, 10 bullets, but I want to check each of the bullets in turn, right? All right, so here's my check bounds for my bullet itself, and this is just for my if my bullet.y is less than 0, which means it's above the screen. How about if my bullet.y is greater than the screen height, right? So if I say there's another one, if bullet.y is greater than the height of the screen, which right now is 480 pixels. Now, do I have in my config screen height? And I haven't put that in. This is a great place to put in if I wanted to do screen height and all that stuff. I would put it in here. Just from the time perspective, we don't got time for that. I know it's more than 480 pixels. Then I want to do the same thing. I want to destroy my bullet. That's the other condition. I want to check all the conditions for if it leaves, this is the, if the bullet has left the top of the stage. Top of the stage, right? How about if the left, this is the one that checks the bottom of the stage. So if the, you know, if it's left the bottom of the stage, then destroy it, right? That's another reason why I would destroy it. Because I don't want to enable it to go off into infinity forever and ever. My program will keep calculating my bullets forever, like off into oblivion. You can't see them, but they're there, right? Now left and right. So this is the top and bottom. This is for left. So if my bullet.x then is less than 0, so less than 0 means to the left. Check to see if the bullet has left the left side of the stage, right? So less than 0. And delete that one. And again, you can make compound statements here, but it's okay. The other one is if check to see if the bullet has left the right side of the stage. Right side would be more than 640 pixels, so be greater than 640. Greater than 640, right? Now you may want to add the length of the bullet on there, because the length of the bullet means like once the middle of the bullet left the stage, it's going to pop away. It's going to disappear. So that's one thing that you want to. If my bullet.y plus, as an example, the width of the bullet or whatever is left the stage, then whatever. But that's for now. Let's leave it as is. This is basics. All right, let's try this out. See if it works. These changes. So I've checked to see if my bullet is off the stage. I'm just refresh, and I'm going to go here and press play. And now when I press the bullets, I can press as many bullets. But if you notice, even if I hold it down, it's not going to be a stream of bullets, and I can even turn directions, and it can go all over the place. And my number of bullets don't increase. They just, once they hit the edge of the stage, they disappear. Right? So that's the first thing that it does. Okay? And my ship can move around in any direction. Right? So this is kind of, I can almost create my own little asteroids game, if you will, by kind of moving my ship around any direction. Right? And of course, I can add in fire effects, fire animation on the end when I press the button and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So this is bullet firing 101, right? Now you were asking to see what if I want to move the ship only left and right. So when my ship starts off, it's in the middle of my stage, right? But I want to move it to the left and the right. How do I do only left and right movement? Well, it's pretty simple. Huh? Right. So let's say, for example, is I have to change my game object, because right now in my game object I have position and rotation, and I've got to turn right and turn left. But what I need is a couple more public functions. One of them is move right and move left, right? So, or slide right and slide left. Let's call it that. So instead of move, just to make it a little different. So I'm going to put them in here, my public functions, right? So I've got turn left. Let's do something called slide left and slide right. What I mean by slide, it literally will slide to the left or right, right? So we'll just make this the slide left and slide right method. Slide, as opposed to turn, because it's not really turning, it's sliding, right? Or moving, shifting, if you will. Shift left, shift right, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so when the rotation, I don't care about this rotation. It's not going to turn at all, and my direction isn't going to change. So these things are gone, right? All this is gone. I don't care about any of this stuff. Slide left and slide right, right? What I wanted to do is whatever the turn rate is of the object, right? So I wanted to take the my game object, and whatever its speed is, add it to the x component, because I'm moving to left and right. So my x component, when I go to the right, is going to move to the right. So slide left, then I don't care about this. He's just going to say this dot x, right, as an example, is plus equals to when I slide. Sorry, minus equals to the ship's speed, right? So I'm going to say config dot. You can do it here, by the way. And I think it's forward. Is it forward? Yeah, it is. Player forward. So the same thing as it would be. Actually, I can make a side. Let's go to my config. Because you know what, I got player forward and reverse, but maybe my side isn't as fast as my reverse or my top, as an example. So let's say, as an example, when I do that, I'm going to add in a couple more commands. And it's not going to be, it's player slide left, or we just call it slide. When you slides at all, again, I apologize for people that I'm running a little bit late. Just bear with me here while I finish this off for you. So player slide will be a 3. So it doesn't quite move as fast as going forward. I can slide left and right, but going forward is the fastest movement, right? 2 for reverse, but I can't do that fast on the left and right. So this can add different controls there, right? So let's go back here, and so I'm going to say player slide, right? That's going to minus equal to player slide. And this is going to be, the other one is going to be just the same as this one, but it's plus equals. So that basically I'm going to drift to the right. Now you could also put these controls, as an example, inside your avatar. You don't have to put them in game object. They don't have to be global objects. But let's say I put them there. Okay, now how do I activate slide left and slide right? Well, in my avatar, this time, instead of what I'm doing right now with my turn left and turn right, right? When my config is turn left, which is turn left and turn right, that's my A and D keys, right? Let's add in there, instead of turn left, slide left. So I'll say, slide left, right, and this will be slide right instead. And then we'll do a combination of slide right. So this is only going to do a different thing, a different effect than I normally would have. Slide left, slide right, turn left, turn right. Okay, let's go here, and we'll refresh. And now I should have only left and right movement, slower than moving forward, right? Refresh this, kill this, and run this. Okay, so now if I turn left and right, it goes left and right. Right, and I can still fire my bullets, right? Just like I would normally fire, right? Right? What if I want to do both? I can do both too. I can move, I can rotate and slide, which actually makes it a very interesting effect, right? So not only do I rotate left, so I go this dot turn left, right? I can do that, but I also this dot turn right. So I got to do both motions now at once, turn right. And then what this will do is it'll do both what you're asking and what I want. So I want to rotate plus it turns, which is kind of weird. Where you see the motion is going to be modified. So now that I turn, it does one of those, right? So it kind of does one of these when it kind of goes forward, right? So it's more of a smoother motion. It kind of rotates right, but it also moves to the right, almost like a thing. So I have a really weird, I don't think I'll ever see this ship again. Right, let's see if I do. Yeah, it'll never be, the rotation is way off. So let's just go to, but that's what I could do. I could make it so that I could slide right, and I could slide to the left a little bit, right, as opposed to the way it works. So a little bit different, a modification of its movement, right? Now the great thing about that is you can bound the ship. Right now it goes off all over the place, but I can bound the ship inside my screen, so I can never leave my screen by actually creating a check bounds method similar to my bullet. Right? Which means I should have that in my object class, right? Going back to here, inside my game objects, I should have a check bounds method in here that checks bounds for any object, if I want to activate it or not. And if it does, I can call the check bounds method if I want to or not, right? To see if it's off the screen. And if it is off the screen, then I can stop it. But it checks to see if it checks my bounds. So, thinking, kind of, food for thought here. That's what I'm going to do. So, that's it for me for this week. I think we focused a little bit about this. Please, for next week, I'd ask you guys to give me an update. I want to see your update for your stuff. I want to see your update for your games if I haven't seen them already. And then what we can do is, because next week, week 13, remember we don't have any class on Monday because Monday is a holiday, but Tuesday we're in. Like Tuesday we're good. I'm here on Tuesday. Right? Let's get together. I want to see your stuff. Please fire me an email if you got problems. And that last week is the last week that I can actually see your stuff and give you feedback. Okay? And that's it for me.